But Sean, we're here.
We're here.
We're finally here.
The reason you had me on this podcast.
The whole reason.
The only reason you had me on this podcast.
Let's be honest.
Well, Brandon was gone too.
Well, when Brandon told me, hey, I'm going to be out of town, usually what we have done for every preview, the team that made the playoff, we do their division first. Mm-hmm. However, because Brandon was like, hey, I'm going to be in Florida this week, and we knew that you were going to be the one to fill in, I told him, I said, hey, you know what? Let's switcheroo. Let's do their division that week so that Sean could talk about Washington. Because I didn't want to stick you talking about the Trojans and the Bruins and have you talk about them and not about your Washington
I'll sound
Huskies.
Like an idiot.
Yeah, but you could talk about your Huskies.
I can talk about the North.
Here's the
Just did it.
Here's the thing I want to ask you, because this to me is the biggest question for Washington heading into this year. How confident are you, and what are your chances that they get back to the playoff this year?
Back to the playoffs. I mean, that's different
they're
because
a top 4 team this year, like they were last year.
I have a tough time saying I'm for sure confident that they're going to be back. I think that they're going to be a top team in college football without a doubt. But the fact that they lost as bad as they did against Alabama, and the fact that Alabama didn't win the title, I know that it's not the huge factor because, I mean, it was a close game, came down to the wire. Clemson was a great team as well. But I think that's going to sit poorly in the minds of voters, and I don't think that Washington's going to get the respect like we saw to start the voting process. Washington's not going to get the respect that they deserve because they don't have a super strong schedule like last year. Really, the only strong parts come at the end, and even then, they don't play USC, and USC was the bad loss. I think that it's very likely that they will be a top 10 team, and if they go undefeated, I think that's going to be a playoff team for sure. But if they lose to Stanford, I think that ends their playoff hopes just because of what happened last year and the fact that they didn't get enough respect last year. And then when they did get the respect,
Stanford's their only loss?
Yeah, because we saw last year what happened when they went up against Alabama. When they went up against a team like USC, they got steamrolled. Now, I think that's going to play a lot into the factor because they're not really changing up their out of schedule, they're out of conference because you have Rutgers still there. They beat up on Rutgers last year. They have Montana. I think they beat up on Montana last year. It was a Hawaii. I think they beat up on Fresno State. They beat up on last year. I mean, they don't have that game that's like that's your key win.
Last year they beat up 48.
It was Portland State.
48-13 against Rutgers, 59-14 against Idaho, and then 41-3 against Portland State.
Yeah. I see Fresno State, they could beat up on them. Montana, they could beat up on them. Rutgers, they could beat up on them. They don't have that, that big key win that's really going to help voters and be like, well, who do you play? And if they beat Stanford, well, it's then, you got to beat them again like they did last year, 44-6, because they got to beat them and show that they're a great team because of the fact that they lost in an unsavory way against Alabama. I think just looking at the eyes of voters, I think if they go 12-0, they have a dead shot to win the conference. To go to the playoffs. But even then, if they go, undefeated in the regular season, then go to the Pac-12 conference, have to play USC and get steamrolled, there's no way. They have to have a perfect season to get to the playoffs, I think.
I think they can still make the playoff with one loss. And the only way they make the playoff with one loss is if that one loss is to Stanford. Yeah. And then they win the Pac-12 over USC.
I would say that's fair too.
Like that's the only situation I see. However,
but then I think a 13-0 for sure you're in.
Yeah, no, for sure.
12-1, even if you beat USC and it's a close game, and USC maybe has a downer season than we thought they did, and they're not coming in as high as ranked as they did, and it's a close game. I think that still sits poorly in voters' minds.
How I'm looking at the playoff is, for sure, I think that a team from the SEC and the Big Ten will be in the playoff. I want to say that the third team for sure will be from the Pac-12. Either Washington or USC are the two that I'm thinking. The fourth team is either going to be an ACC team or a Big 12 team.
Or a Big 10.
Or another Big 10 team. I didn't even think about that. Or another SEC team, or let's say Washington and Southern Cal make it.
It's going to be a Power 5 team. I think it's going to be all Power 5 teams. I don't think we're going to see a team come out of the woodworks again and
not like a Houston.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think for sure we're going to see Alabama in there.
Here's the thing that could worry me if I was a Husky fan, though.
What's up?
Because of how good your season was last year, yeah, I know you're returning, I want to say like 13 starters from last year. You have Victor coming back on defense, Browning coming back on offense. However,
Gaskin coming back.
The thing that I worry about is that because of what you guys were last year, you're going to have a target on the back. You're going to have the target on your back because you were the reigning Pac-12 champ. You went to the playoff from the conference. And the game, there are a few games that, do I think you lose them? No. But are they maybe trap game-esque types? Maybe. Colorado's one of them. It's on the road. Do I think you lose that game? No. However, Montez might be thinking in the back of his head, I remember that 41-10 loss where the starter got injured, I got pulled in, I got put in, I played well, but then I got replaced again, and the starter threw 2 pick sixes and basically put the game out of reach. That could be a game trap-esque you lose. Another one around Halloween weekend. If Rosen is healthy,
we did beat up on Colorado. Well, no, it was just once.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it was in the Pac-12 title game for 41-10. I think it was. UCLA is another one. If Rosen is healthy, I think that's a different game. However, I think it beat Rosen. Another one that I think could be trap-esque, and the good thing is it's at home and not in Eugene, are the Ducks.
No, I think the 2 games that are for sure hard games, Stanford, Washington State.
Well, those are hard games. I'm talking about like trap games to where it's like target on the back any given Saturday. See, they get the best.
Oregon's a better version of. I mean, Washington's
because they took you to overtime last year.
Oregon did.
I want to say Oregon.
We beat them 70-21.
No,
so
that's
unless
not the game
overtime's going backwards,
I'm thinking Arizona. Arizona was the team that took you to overtime.
That's not going to happen again.
No,
we're going to beat up on Arizona.
But I could see a team like Oregon this year maybe being that kind of a game.
We're a better Oregon. That's all it is. We're a better Oregon. I mean, Oregon shows nothing to me, at least from a defensive standpoint, that can beat up Jake Browning and give him pressure. And you saw what Oregon's defense did last year against Gaskin, against Browning. They did nothing. They did nothing to stop him. They obliterated that team. I don't think it's going to be 70-21, but I think it's going to be a blowout again. I think we're going to be able to blow out Oregon. I think we're going to be able to blow out Oregon State again. I think that we're going to be able to beat up on the weaker teams like good teams do. Again, I think it's going to be the games like Washington State because it's a rivalry game, and Stanford because they're just a great team that are going to be the tough games and the only games that they're going to lose. I see at worst this is a 2-loss team that doesn't make it to the Pac-12 conference game, or at best a 1-loss team, and that loss either comes to the playoff or it comes against USC.
I was gonna say the best case scenario is that you're undefeated.
The best case scenario in the regular season could be undefeated. The best case scenario in general might be a national title. Might be. Just saying.
I don't think you
Might be. Hey, the fact that we're talking that they could be in the playoff, and the fact that Jake Browning got older and this offensive line got better. I'm not saying
the only thing that scares me.
Best case. I'm not calling anything. I'm not saying that they're going to.
The only thing that scares me is when you start, you said the words national title, and I had flashbacks to you watching the Alabama game. I had flashbacks to watching you kill yourself by watching that game.
That's strong words there.
No, I'm just saying it was killing you to watch that game. You watched every minute of it because you're a true fan. But let's be honest, you could have turned that game off and you would have been perfectly happy.
It was a close game. We almost it was a blowout. On paper, it wasn't a blowout.
Yeah,
we had our chances.
However,
I don't want to talk about the game.
Coming into this,
if we avoid Alabama in the first round, maybe we get a shot.
And that's what I was gonna say. If you avoid Alabama, let's say you go up against, there's 3 teams that I do not want you to play in the playoff because I think you will lose badly.
Alabama, Penn
State, and same conference, Ohio State. I think those 3 teams, completely same outcome. I think
we would beat Ohio State.
What you would need to hope for is that you become
2
and maybe 3 is like an ACC team.
Yeah.
And but how I see it is SEC 1, Big Ten 2. So really you would have to, you got to play one of them. And you don't want to play Alabama again. That's why you want to become the 3 team.
Alabama lost a lot of players. I'll say that. Lost a lot of players.
Alabama likes to reload, though.
Yeah.
They like to reload.
I'm not saying I want to play Alabama again. I'm just trying to pep myself up here, Ricky.
Looking at the regular season, let's get back to that because I don't want to give Sean a heart attack here.
Not a heart attack.
The
just getting anxious again.
Best case scenario I see from this team, undefeated season.
Mm-hmm.
My worst case scenario, I'm not saying this will happen, but this is like panic button situation, 3 losses. Then worst case scenario, you lose to Stanford, you lose to Washington, and then Washington State, and then you lose one game to like an Oregon, a UCLA, a Colorado, just one sprinkled loss where it's like, damn it, they got the best of us. How did they get the best of us? Why did we let that happen? But that's worst case scenario, like panic button situation.
I don't think Chris Peterson's going to let that happen. I think worst case scenario.
I don't think it's going to happen either.
I think worst case is going to be 2 to either Stanford or Washington State, and then the second loss is the knockout blow from USC. In the title game, if we get to that with 1 loss, and then I think best case again is I'll change it to national title appearance.
What I think
appearance, because I don't think we'll be able. I don't think if we have to play Alabama, we're not winning again.
Do you want to know what I think is going to be your outcome this season?
Yeah,
undefeated regular season.
Lose to USC.
You lose to USC. I've got and I'll say this right now. I will spoil it. Unless something drastic changes, like Darnold goes down with an injury, the Trojans are my favorite to win the Pac-12.
Yeah,
and they're my favorite to make a playoff spot.
It's fair.
But however, I think this, like I said before, I can't remember which team in this preview was. To me, there are only 3 teams I see getting to the playoff from the Pac-12. And Washington's the only one from the North. It's Washington, Trojans, or Bruins are the only 3 teams that I see getting. The Bruins, if Rosen can stay healthy.
The Bruins are that good?
If Rosen can stay healthy and play the way that he did his freshman year, I'm not saying that they're the favorite, but they could be that kind of dark horse to beat USC, get to the Pac-12 title game, and in that game, anything is possible.
If I have to pick 3 teams, Washington's my favorite, USC's 2, and Stanford's 3.
Stanford would be my 4. They're close. Close. I
think unless USC has a major collapse. And some, I don't know, just something weird happens.
Yeah.
And they don't make it to the Pac-12 championship game. I mean, I think for sure we know who's going to make it to the Pac-12 championship game. I think it's going to be Washington. I think it's going to be USC. I think that's where anything can happen. And
Washington's going to have that revenge factor on their mind.
Being optimistic, I'm going to say Washington wins it. But with USC's defense being able to put pressure on Browning like they were able to last year, and Darnold putting the boot on Washington's throat and running and just moving the ball constantly and consistently down the field against Washington. I could totally see flashbacks to that game in Washington last year happening all over again. So I would say, again, as an optimist, Washington and USC are maybe tied as for sure going to be there. And I think that those 2 teams are the for sure playoff teams that with playoff hopes.
No, how I see it, and that's exactly how I see it playing out, is Washington and USC get to the Pac-12 title game, and then at that point it's winner take all. Winner gets the playoff spot, loser gets to go to the Rose Bowl.
If they do go undefeated, though, and they beat USC, Jake Browning for Heisman.
Could you imagine a situation where, because think about this, you know what could happen?
What?
What could happen is that SEC 1, Big Ten 2, and basically for Washington and USC, it becomes, okay, winner of the Big Ten title game and the winner of the Pac-12 title game play each other in the playoff, and Penn State or Ohio State, whichever one doesn't make it, plays the loser. So there's a possibility where it's like, great, who do I want to play? This team in the playoff or this one in the Rose Bowl?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm nervous.
Give me a percentage on national title.
10%.
10%?
No, that's too high.
That's too high.
I would give a 75 to 1 odds.
Okay. 75 to 1 odds to win the national title this year.
To win the national title.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see a national title.
Neither do I.
In Washington future.
Neither do I.
There are a couple teams I would pick above Washington.
A lot. If I'm being serious, there's a lot of teams I'd pick over Washington.
Yeah. But you know what? If you get to it, they get improved this year.
I want to beat USC.
I know you do.
Fuck USC.
I know you do.
Can I say that?
Yeah, you can.
Can I be on the Notre Dame preview and also just say fuck USC too?
I guess you could.
I'm sick of picking teams that constantly get beat up by fucking USC.
It could be worse. You could be an Illinois fan like me.
You don't get beat up by USC.
Yeah, no, we get beat up by Northwestern, which is worse.
Who cares?
I do.
Northwestern football and Illinois football aren't relevant.
I know.
They haven't been relevant in years.
I know. I wanted to, though, with Lovey. I do. But this is where you guys come in, Washington fans. You guys don't want to hear me talk about my Fighting Illini. I want to hear what you want to say.
Bro, go check out the Fighting Illini preview.
Hey, I tried not to be homerish, but
no, I'm just saying if you want to hear him talk about the Illini, go check out the Primetime Podcast preview of the Illinois.
Brandon basically interviewed me for that one because getting the fan perspective. But I want to thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you think down below. Really, the thing is, do you guys see yourself returning to the playoff? And then also, are you going to see yourself as a national title contender?
One thing real quick. I feel like we didn't talk about the team enough. I feel like we just talked about the schedule enough. But that's just because this team, yes, they lost
so much.
Yes, they lost Kev King. Yes, they lost Sidney Jones. Yes, they lost a ton of playmakers on defense. Obviously, they lost John Ross
but you
as well.
returned 13 starters.
You returned 13 starters. This offensive line is going to improve. Jake Browning's going to improve. And you still have Myles Gaskin, who is a fantastic running back. Might be one of the most dangerous running backs in college football. I'd probably say top 5. Probably behind Barkley for sure. But outside of that, I think it's definitely up there for Gaskin being one of the best playmakers in college football. I think this offense and also Pettis as well being not only dangerous in the return game but in the receiving game. I just think that this offense isn't going to suffer too much with the loss of John Ross. I think they're actually going to improve with the offensive line getting older and stronger, and then also with the defense. Yes, you were going to be hurt by Sidney Jones and Kev King going away, but I think Cap, getting older, going from a freshman to a sophomore, being the leader of this team, I have faith in him doing that and being the leader of the secondary. I don't think this defense is going to take too much of a hit, and if they do, I think Browning's maturity is going to at least hide some of those flaws the defense has, and then that's really going to be shown if the defense is matured enough in that USC game, in that Pac-12 championship game.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below in the comment section what you guys think. Want to thank you guys for either watching on YouTube or listening on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, or Stitcher. Want to thank Sean for joining me for this one, talking about the North Division and his Washington Huskies, and doing you the favor of
Thanks
letting
for
me talk
having
about
me,
them.
Brandon. Have fun in Florida.
Anytime you want to come on, you're more than welcome. Here.
I made one. The only time you had a guest on, I think it was your first guest.
Yep.
On the Primetime Podcast, we talked. Me, and Brandon talked. I think it was Notre Dame and Michigan State.
We did, and I also had
Notre Dame lost that game.
I know I had you on for a Washington segment in the past as well. And we talked about their playoff.
We did preview
contenders. That too. I
think we did preview. I definitely did the top 25 preview. That you guys.
Yes, you did. Huh. You did that for us, and the Notre Dame one last year as well. If you want to see the intro for that one, go ahead.
I think Notre Dame football might start my drinking habits. I don't drink yet, but I think if Notre Dame football might start that
in 2 years, it might start it.
It might start this year.
It might start it this year. But I want to thank you guys for the watching or listening. Brandon will be back next week. We'll start in our final Power 5, the Big 12 Conference. Want to thank you guys for watching and listening. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Kansas is winning the Big 12 this year.